Jeff, welcome, and you can share your screen and tell us what to expect.
Well, easier said than done. These days, it's been here in this part of the state in Hazlet. It has been a very short night with almost continuous thunderstorms. I'll talk more about that, but it's for many of you, and for those of you who are lucky enough to have power and can join us or have internet, that's another issue. But a very, very active week. It goes without saying. Just a couple things looking at the last week in review here. We started off the week a little cooler than normal, but then as we all can appreciate, essentially a tropical air mass moved in from the south and west. And one of the incredible characteristics of this air mass were the high dew points, the high humidities, which is why it's been so uncomfortable here over the last few days. Dew point temperatures in excess of 70, in some cases over 80. That's climatologically top end for the Midwest and certainly for Michigan. But I saw a couple in the mid 80s, which is just almost unheard of high. And anytime we have a situation like that in the atmosphere with so much water vapor, the raw material of precipitation and a potential energy source as it condenses, you have certainly the recipe for potential major problems. And we have seen that on almost 3 consecutive days. But overall, the week turned out to be a couple degrees warmer than normal, given, especially at night, some of our minimum temperatures for the last few days only in the low 70s. On the right-hand side here, precipitation, heavy precipitation over most of the state, above wetter than normal week for most everyone, a much wetter than normal week for a lot of the northern lower and portions of the southwest. And I want to just a couple of areas here. We did have the remnants of severe thunderstorms, actually tornadic thunderstorms in Wisconsin and Illinois that moved through on Monday evening, and that left a swath here. If you can see down down southwest corner here in Berrien, a swath of in excess of 4 inches of rain, 3 to 4 inches of rain. You can see the reds there. And then the night after that, on Tuesday evening, up here in the Northwest, we had somewhat similar situation. Again, remnants of severe weather across. So there was actually severe weather in Michigan as well, but these were storms that had been earlier even worse and dumped heavy rain up in the Traverse City area. And you can see that here in red. Now note that these totals do not include what fell here over the last 24 hours. This only goes through 8 o'clock yesterday morning. And this map is going to change a great deal. And I'll show you why in just a second here, because we have had in many southern parts of the state torrential rainfall totals here. A couple more things, lots and lots of severe weather reports. Most of them were associated with high wind. We did have a couple reports of hail, tornadoes with all the severe weather primarily confined in areas to our west, but there were many, many reports of high winds here again on Tuesday night, and then again last night further south. At one time on yesterday and late Tuesday, more than 190,000 customers in Michigan without power. So major, major problems. It's one of the larger severe weather outbreaks we've had in Michigan for some time. And then, as I mentioned here, this is a brand new, this is actually almost as we speak, but these are radar estimated totals or radar augmented totals. There's some ground data here too. From the radar site over at the Weather Service at Grand Rapids. And I haven't seen a map like this for a while. Grand Rapids is here in the middle. This is where the radar is. And then you've got 96 and 69 here. But there's a large area in central and eastern lower where at least 4 inches fell. The star here, that's my house in Hazlet. And the thunderstorm started here about 10:30 and ended around 4:30. I had 5:32, and that's the heaviest. I've been here for 30 years. That's the heaviest precipitation I've ever seen. Actually, in 24 hours, it's if you look at statistics, that's a 100-year rainfall event, and for 6 hours, which is actually when the rain fell, it's more like a 150-year, maybe even closer to 200-year, or once in very, very, very rare. Amazingly, because of earlier dryness, there are reports of basements flooded and so forth, which you'd expect with this kind of a rainfall, but it's not as bad where I am. Although I'm waiting for the water to hit my sump pump. It hasn't gone on, but it will now, certainly 5 inches, but just remarkable. And you can actually see in the yellow here, there's areas to the south, right along I-96, Livingston County, parts of Ingham County, where the rainfall was even heavier. So, and these are record-breaking type of totals. Very, very, very rare to see this at any time. But again, it goes back to those high dew points and all that high humidity that we had. Degree days, and this is not quite as interesting here. Our base 50-degree days for the season beginning in May 1 are still, with the warmer than normal week, we still are running a surplus. Depends on where you are, generally 50 to 100 units ahead of normal. That translates in calendar days to several days ahead of where we typically are this time of the year. And we've had that surplus here for several weeks. Soil moisture, and this one's, it's sort of interesting. It's also going to change with time here, but the percentiles here, I think, are the most interesting thing to look on the right-hand side. We can see that conditions relative to history range from a little bit below normal, and these browns in southeastern lower Michigan are not long for this world. They won't be there next week. But when this was taken here yesterday, they're a little bit behind, but there are large areas of northern lower Michigan where we're much ahead. In other words, this is plant available moisture in the top 3 feet of the profile, and we're, again, think about just as recently as mid-June, we were really, really needing and serious need of water. And now in some cases, we have too much. A remarkable reversal here this year. Well, in the forecast, one more day of the hot, humid conditions. You can see here are several frontal boundaries in the map this morning. The first one is the one that's helped set off the thunderstorms overnight. We still do have some convection in the southeastern corner of the state that's moving to the east or off to the east fairly rapidly. That'll be gone here in the next couple of hours. So, and then for most of the state, we will see a mostly fair, dry, and hot day. Fairly windy, southwest winds as well, but there are big changes in store here. And note, this is as of 8 o'clock this morning. I'm going to show you the map here for this evening because we still have enough moisture. Most of the really deep moisture has started to recede to the south and east of Michigan. But in the southern part of the state, we're going to still have some around. And that will lead to yet one more night where we will likely see at least scattered showers and thunderstorms develop here later today and into this evening. It is possible, again, given we're on the edge of the volatile area, but it is possible we could see some strong thunderstorms once again here this evening. I think they'll primarily be confined to the southern lower, and not everybody will see rainfall. It will be more scattered tonight. Northern parts of the state will stay dry. We'll see high temperatures today once again into the upper 80s to near 90. Heat index values a little bit less than what they were yesterday, and on Tuesday probably in the 90s, but very uncomfortable in most spots. By tomorrow morning, you can see finally the last of these fronts pushes through to the south and east. There will be some lingering showers in the far southern part of the state. The north will be dry, but significantly cooler and significantly less humid. So we're going to see our dew point temperatures crash from the low 70s where they are now in most areas back down into the 50s by late Friday. And it's going to set the stage for all this. There's hopefully some light at the end of the tunnel here. A beautiful weekend, almost a perfect outdoor weekend. High temperatures back into the upper 70s to near 80, and low temperatures, upper 40s north to 50s. Fair skies, dry conditions, low humidity. If you've got outdoor activities and you've been waiting for that weekend, this 2 or 3 day, this is it. This is the one. It's going to be just fantastic conditions here for the weekend. And after tonight and into tomorrow morning, no precipitation until probably the middle of next week. There were some hints that tropical storm Ken, which is churning up into the Gulf of Mexico, might brush us, but it looks like right now the latest guidance shows that that'll remain off to our east. That's a positive thing, but the next chance for precip may be about late Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. So thinking back about Kim's presentation here too, if you do have some type of hay cut or harvest, this would probably be a good time to at least think about it. You've got several clear days. dry days and fairly good drying potential at that, beginning again in most parts of the state by the middle of the day tomorrow and then continuing into early next week. So much different situation, certainly much more seasonable. We will see a little bit of an increase in temperatures by the beginning of next week to above normal levels. And that's sort of where our medium range forecast is going once again. But if we look at precip totals, note drier than normal. It's been a while since we could say that, with no precipitation expected across literally the northern half of the state to maybe a quarter to a half an inch in the south. And that's a precipitation mostly tonight. That I talked about, the scattered showers and thunderstorms and maybe a little bit lingering on tomorrow. So basically a pretty dry week is in store here. Potential evapotranspiration rates, these are the reference values, will be above normal for the upcoming week, generally ranging around 0.17 to 0.18 inches per day. But it will be a little bit higher than that probably by the time we get to next week. I would think high temperatures by Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, probably back up into the low to mid 80s, a couple degrees above normal, and that the min temps edging up as well. But again, a little bit more water demand than normal here for the upcoming week. And in the medium range, as I mentioned here, the theme once again is pushing us towards the warmer end. You can see the jet stream flow here, the main branch of the polar jet way up over eastern Canada, way to our north, with higher pressure here over the Great Lakes. Fairly significant or strong likelihood of warmer than normal mean temperatures. The 8 to 14 day time frame, which goes on beyond this, very similar. Both of these call fairly consistently for above normal temperatures. It does also suggest drier than normal conditions for the 6 to 10 day. You can see that here. Michigan's a little bit on this gradient, but by the 8 to 14 day time frame, Michigan once again is right in the middle, drier than normal to our east, wetter than normal to our west. So that's a little bit of a more dicey call in terms of the forecast. I think the message once again, as we've seen for a couple of weeks now, but it's still pointing us towards warmer than normal conditions. And I think that's probably the take home. So summarizing here again, one more day of the heat wave across, and Michigan's right on the northern fringe of this. It's covering much of the central U.S. It's also spreading now to the eastern U.S. with the heat and humidity, but we will see one more night, scattered showers and thunderstorms. Likely that it will be much less in aerial extent and severity than what we've seen over the last couple nights. But if we do see any action, probably in the far south, and then some lingering showers tomorrow morning, and then the big change starts. We will see the wind shift around to the northwest, and it will be very apparent as that dew point temperature drops, and our temperatures the air temperatures start to fall, but the humidity is going to be really noticeable when the dew points go back to the 50s, and that sets the stage again for an almost perfect weekend here for this weekend. And then slow warming trend next week, no precip until the middle of the week, and that's a little bit that agrees pretty much with our medium range, looking out, pointing us back towards above normal temperatures. And I'll stop there and move ahead. And a reminder for next week's virtual breakfast, next Thursday morning, we've got Dr. Bruno Basso with us. And Bruno's a close friend of mine. And if you're interested in technology and thinking about the future and where some of the themes in agriculture may be, and at least in the future, he's a great thinker. Don't miss this next Thursday. He'll be with us, and we'll be talking about some of his work here at MSU. So don't miss that. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Paul here for some questions.